Working on D today. We're working on the D chord, and so the D chord is one of our favorites, and I'm just going to go through a brief tune-up here so that we can all get on the same page. Tune-up's a really important part of warm-up, really. It's a really important part because it gives us a moment to focus on our breath. We're not going to go through an entire warm-up session today, but we are going to do some great work, so stick around for sure. D chord. We're doing is sort of an extended tutorial on one of guitar's favorite chords today, the D chord. So if we're new to the chord, we should find something new. And if we are a D chord veteran, we should also find something new. The purpose of this lesson is to create a learning environment. You'll notice in the last lesson we talked about the G chord, an extended view of the G chord, and if you wanted to, go ahead and grab a look at that video, because there's a really full approach to warm up in that video. And as you know, I've just got to get this in tune. It's killing me a little bit. So, ooh, the A is a little sharp. I'm not sure how I missed that one. Probably paying attention to the metronome. Once again, our metronome is set in this video at 60 beats per minute. And we all have friends who start faster and some who start without metronome, just to keep the tempo fluid so we don't feel rushed if we're working on brand new material. That's in. That's pretty close to in. Oh, and here's our note right here, D. And we could start, let's begin with a really simple D chord. It's just a open D string, a finger 1 on fret 2, and a finger 2 on fret 3. Well, in which strings, you ask? I'm just going to leave the guitar up here. You can check out the fingerboard and you can figure out which fingers go on which string. I'm going to also add finger 4 up here on fret number 5 on the high E string. Kind of felt like I was skidding out there a little bit. So what we're doing is we're playing a bass note, we're dropping the D chord, or the D note. I've got to get back with the metronome. We're dropping a D note, root note, and then lightly strumming that top 3-string group on the G, B, and high E strings. And we're just kind of letting the pick glance over the strings as we strum. Inserting a fill here at the end of every, 4-bar pattern or 4-bar phrase or whenever we feel like it, because, we're the ones playing the guitar. And that little walk up is just open D, fret 2 on the D, fret 4 on the D, with fingers 1 and 3, and then we've got finger 1 on fret 2 on the G string that we run up, and that's going to stay right there, but it would stay right there except for we need it to go down to the D string and grab that fret 2 there. Happened there is we started working back with the D5, the root D, A, G, or D, A, D. And then we descended the major scale. So D descends down to the 7, or fret 2, which is the 7th degree of the scale. And then the open B, which is the 6th degree of the scale, or La. And it's a really bright, open sound. And here comes the riff. You might want to mix it up a little bit right here with that right hand. Give it a little bit more depth and dimension. And all we're doing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. If we can start counting the ands, or the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. This D chord too is because we've got a pedal tone or bass note that stays in one place. We can start building off of motion here. Maybe I can move that whole shape up 1 fret. It definitely has a function. It's a surprise if it's the first time you're hearing it. Just got to get back to the metronome here. We could also go up 2 frets, which would be, sometimes it's kind of cool. That gives us sort of a different scale altogether. D and E, right? Basically with a D note underneath it. E flat's cool, but it's not, not as popular on popular radio. Put it that way. There's not really any other way to put it. It could be. Do this. That's not really a good spot. This is another nice spot. Not so nice. Maybe we won't go back there again. here's a review of what we've been working on so far. So we've got the D, the full D chord right here. And we've been basically using the bass note and strumming the chord pattern on top of it. And so now what we're going to do is just stick right here and alternate between the open D and the A strings. And we're staying on bass note, chord strum, bass, chord, bass, strum, bass, strum, bass. And this is going to create a nice alternating bass note pattern. It takes a little bit of time to get used to that palm mute, where to place that palm mute. But don't worry, we're going to take enough time to get it together. Now, what I'm doing is I'm like doing the old Daniel LaRusso, karate chopping the bridge right here. And based on where my hand is, you know, kind of identifies how much gas we've got going here. So how much palm mute are we using? All right, so that's up to you. But let's get back on track with the metronome. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. On dynamics too. Maybe you want to have the bass notes louder than the chord strums, and maybe you want to have the chord strums not palm muted at all. There's a lot of work, there's a tremendous amount of work and concentration that goes into executing this properly. And unfortunately, it's not, you know, one of those things that we're going to take a little pill and all of a sudden be able to do without hours and hours and hours of repetitive practice. But fortunately for us, we like this stuff. Provide some variation. So we can also use other notes from the D major scale in open position. We should be familiar with how to approach the entire position, regardless of what key we're playing in, and regardless of which position we're in. We should really have a good solid command over the guitar. And that's very, very rewarding experience, and one totally worth working toward. I would spend years of my life to achieve this. So here we have the D. Let's take a quick look, because we need to know the D major scale and the D major pentatonic scales in open position if we wanted to play along with the D chord. So we're starting with open D, 2, 4, right? And then same thing on the next G string. And you can see what I'm doing is I'm not really able to look at where my guitar pick is, but I'm kind of familiar with the range of the guitar, so I'm using my fingers to grab the top, just kind of indicate the top range, and then the lower range is my, my palm. And then the pick is going to sort itself out just by just kind of feeling around. And so I know if I start on the D string, I've got 0, 2, 4, I've got 0, 2, 4 on the G string as well, or I could play the open B string. When we're in open position, it's great on acoustic guitar especially, and electric guitar, on all stringed instruments, to go ahead and play the open strings whenever we can, and we don't want to necessarily overlook the open strings. So that being said, let's take a look at that alternative to open D string, open G string, open B string, and that's the octave. So D, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. And we're back at the D. We arrive at a place called the D5 chord once again. It's pretty cool how that just all kind of fits together. It's a great... I thought that high E string was a little out. It's important to keep the guitar in tune while we practice, because we don't want to start getting a distorted understanding of harmony and melody. Okay, so we have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and then D, and then we can continue going up over the octave up to A in the open position, unless we wanted to slide up into fourth position, but we don't. For right now, we'll stay right in open position. Every time we encounter the root note of the scale that we're playing, I would recommend we play it, we stop on it, observe it, and play it again. And so we resume the scale at that point. So it helps with tonicization of the note. Oh, I could use the fret 5 right there, but we have an open E string. So it's a decision you're going to have to make, in your playing. But for now, I'm going to use as many open strings as I can. Right. We stop here. We stop there again, observe it. Play the chord at the end, and before the chord too, before the scale too. So we'll play the chord to sort of give us a sort of a frozen concept, a frozen idea of where things are at. And then what we'll do is we'll thaw it out with some, we'll introduce time instead of having it be a static chordal pattern, right? So we have this nice D, D, D. Oh yeah, play the chord and then the scale. Yeah, very cool. So we could have the D chord with the D in the bass. We could have the D chord with the A in the bass. We could have the D chord with the F sharp in the bass. We could have the D chord with the E in the bass, which is a cool sound. We could have a ton of fun with just playing around with change bass. So D chord doesn't always have to be D chord. And that being said, we could also just kind of, well, if I have the D chord here, I also have the D chord here. this is sort of a Neil Young kind of, it's common with Harvest Moon from Neil Young. You know, he's sort of, the guitar players are just breaking up the D chord. I guess they're making a, you know, kind of deviating from the traditional to typical triadic formation and just sort of extending it to sevenths, right? So that's, we actually ended up with that 6 down here, right? But we can't hammer onto it, so we have that open B string, right? So that was the Do, T, or the 7, and then the La. So that's that sound from that song, right? That 6 is a really nice sound to add into D. All right, so really nice sound. So all we're doing right now is just inverting the chords. So we have the 5, the 1, and the 3, and on the top 3 strings, and then we have the 1, the 3, and the 5. And then we have the 3, the 5, and the 1, and then the 5, the 1, and the 3 on the top. So those are chord patterns or scale tones, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? We got that 5, 5, 6, 7, 1, or 8, or 1, right? And then when we get back to the 1, we do 2, 3, and then so we've got 5, 1, 3, and then 1, 3, 5, and then 3, 5, 1. So interesting stuff going on here with the D chord. So we're not just moving the D chord up and around like Extreme would have in the 90s, right? We're not really doing that. So this is just sort of an inversion of the same triad. If we use the same chord parallel, we would change the chord quality or the chord name, right? It could still be called something with a D note in the bass, but for example, this is a G chord, right, with a D in the bass, and this is an A chord with a D in the bass because 5, 1, we have a D, E, F sharp, G, A. Yeah. Okay. So that's different. What we're doing is inverting this 3, 5s, and 1s, or the 1s, 3, the 3s and the 5s, and the 3s and the 5s and the 1s, and the 5s and the 1s and the 3s. So we could do the same thing on the next group of strings down, right? So we have D, F sharp, and then we have, let's see. This one's a little bit more challenging. It's sort of a variation on the C chord, which we'll cover later. It's just a different beast altogether. It puts us in sort of a different frame of mind. So we could just kind of take a look at that. Then we get this really cool, let's take a look at the D, G, and B strings first. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. So we're starting with F sharp, A, and then D, and then D, A, D, and F sharp, and then D, F sharp, and A, and then we're back up from whence we came, right? From the 3, the 5, and the 1. This is sort of a technique that you'd find in lead country guitar playing, or really sophisticated rhythmic country guitar playing, whether it's on a Tele, an electric guitar, or a D28, or a beautiful Martin, or a beautiful acoustic guitar, Or maybe not a beautiful acoustic guitar. Maybe it's a piece of garbage, and that's all we can afford. Been there, done that, man. And just put the strings on it, tune it up, and make beautiful tones, and it will work. It'll work, and then just stick with those cool old crappy guitars because they sound really good on microphones. They sound amazing if you're going to make songs out of them using those. So anyway, we're using triadic conversion here with a third in the bass. Kind of cool stuff. I know it's kind of basic, but to make that sound good, man, it's a lot of work. It requires some breathing, some muscle tissue movement, and control. It's a really beautiful instrument to allow us to learn more about ourselves. And I don't claim to be a music professor, although we've founded many programs. I really just think it's a fun thing to learn about the guitar and then see where the ideas go. But we just started with triadic conversions, 3 in the bass. Now it's 5 in the bass. And I have all of the notes still from the D major scale at hand. You hear this kind of stuff a lot in Blink-182's. Stuff like that happens, you know, when we get to the top of that scale pattern right here. That's all basically like change bass notes. That's how they play the melody in the bottom of the D chord, right? So we've got 5th in the bass. Just let's get back to this next try, the final try, the root 3 and 5. So here's 3, 5, 1, and then 5, 1, 3, and then 1, 3, 5. This is where we start thinking about Hendrix, you know, the Allman Brothers, you know, good quality sort of American rock music, which comes from blues and I guess comes from the world we live in, doesn't it? So here's another inversion of D, which is the bottom of this one. Okay, so we've got all of this territory. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, you know, but you got to take those chances. You got to take those risks. Otherwise, our playing starts to sound just like our neighbors. and thou shalt not covet what thy neighbor has. We should enjoy the gifts that we've been given and develop those, because there's no other person who's going to do it for us except for us. And I feel like this is a good place to stop. I'm just going to let it play out and see what happens for a couple more minutes here. But if you have, while we're thinking about wrapping it up during this time, if you have questions and if you have comments, if you have criticisms, helpful criticisms, constructive criticism, we can take those all day long, and we'll just try to remain a happy little bunch. If you wanted to see something a little bit more in depth, similar to what we did here with the D chord, you can start looking at this video right here, which is going to take you all the way through a warm-up. But while we're warming up, we're fully practicing, we're fully thinking about the G chord, which is our intention. We want to learn as much as we can about each chord that we have in our repertoire, because it just helps our musical experience, helps our enjoyment. But it's cool to sound like everyone else once in a while, and you get that affirmation and that gratification. But I think long-term success on the guitar is going to be left for those who take the journey. Yeah. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I really appreciate you coming by again today. And I really hope that you're getting something useful out of this time that we're both investing in ourselves. And without further ado, I will cut. But until we meet again, happy picking.